Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the One Track Mind Ire. This is a prototype and this is the first design coming from One Track Mind. The person behind it is Mr. Steve Joyce. He is from Columbus, Ohio, and he started One Track Mind so that he could make aesthetically pleasing, well-functioning knives and share them with the rest of us. These are going to be a pre-order that he's shooting for late summer. The OEM to these are Kongwu knives, and I already know Kongwu does some amazing work. A lot of people asked whenever I showed this if he had a website. The website is now up. I will have it linked down in the description. He's shooting for around $300 price point on these, and we're going to take a close look at it, and you can decide whether you think it's worth it or not. Because of Kongwu's lead time, if everything goes as planned, he said around 3 to 4 months after the pre-order is done. So he's hoping for a delivery sometimes around Christmas. Now, we know that that's just what he's hoping. We know that production sometimes doesn't go as planned, so don't hold him to that. Just give it a ballpark. It's a ballpark there. So there's going to be 3 different handle scale options. We have this beautiful weave carbon fiber with this black titanium bolster. I think the carbon fiber looks stunning. It's got like a little line right there from where the contouring starts. Beautiful contouring there. Black titanium pocket clip. This is a bolster lock. I love a good bolster lock. And a black titanium backspacer that has been crowned, and it has a geared pattern milled into it. The other 2 scale options, and I'll pop that up now. We have like a brown or natural micarta that definitely offers a good bit of grip, and I like the contrast. Tell you, if I can afford this knife, whenever the pre-order comes live, I will definitely be picking one up, but it's going to be very, very hard to choose between the carbon fiber and that micarta. I like the contrast the micarta gives, but I like that elegant look that comes along with this carbon fiber. And I'll tell you, after putting on all 3 of the scales, the fitment to the titanium is seamless in all 3, which is pretty amazing, being that you're swapping them out, different materials and stuff, but they were all seamless. Definitely let me know which one is your favorite down in the comments. Do you like carbon fiber, that micarta, or the last one is titanium? That kind of confused me. I would have thought you just did a solid tie frame unless you want that bolstered look, or maybe that's what he's changing. I don't know. There's going to be a few updates to this prototype that he is making. So, Steve, if you don't mind, you could let us know down in the comments, and I'll pin your comment, because I saw that he did answer some people's questions on my first impressions video. What do y'all think about the tie? I think the tie looks good. I like the smooth feeling, but I still think I personally prefer the carbon fiber. And like I said, I'm going back and forth, the carbon fiber or the micarta. They all look great. Let's take a look at this pivot. You got a nice decorative pivot, or just not a circle. Looks nice. It's totally flush. You cannot even hardly feel that right there. And then on this side, the Torx screw on this side, which is a Torx T8. All the hardware is Torx T8. Love seeing that. Let's take a look at this action. You have a front flipper, thumb studs, and a long blade window. So you can kind of dial this detent to be a little bit more stout, because if you grab low down here, it's easy to break a stout detent. But let's go to that front flipper first. It sits a little bit above the frame, so it should be fairly easy. And you do have jimping. I was a little afraid because the spine is crowned. I love seeing a crowned spine. It looks so elegant, and it feels nice to the touch. But I was worried because it goes into that jimping. Even though I think it could be a little bit grippier, it still grips the finger nicely. I have not slipped off once. And you don't have to worry about putting your finger on the lock bar because of that bolster lock. The drop shut action, beautiful. Thumb stud action, excellent. But my favorite, that reverse action, is money. You can slow roll it with that front flipper tab. You can slow roll it with the thumb stud or the blade window. I can push off to reverse flick with the tip of my finger, or like I said, it's very easy to reverse flick off that fuller. You have a beautiful, beautiful harpoon blade here. We're not going to do the normal testing because this is his one and only prototype. I totally understand that, and that's just wishes. So we're not going to cut with this, okay, people? You have a forward finger choil, and this spot right here with this forward finger choil and the poonage right here is locked in. So if you needed to do a hammer grip, I get a lot of power behind that cut, I'll tell you that. And then if you wanted to choke back a little bit, this spot's great. Do think it would have been nice to pull this jimping almost all the way out right before it kind of ramps up right there, so you can use it in the choke up spot. Not really something I care about, but I know some people who like jimping, they might like it up here. This is going to be an excellent utility blade shape. Easy to get the tip down on the things. If you need to do fine precision work, you're going to be able to do that very easily. In hand cuts are going to be great because you almost have a straight edge there, so you're not going to have to worry about sliding out of the cut. And another cool thing about the way he designed this is the cutting edge is sitting below the scale. So if you want to cut on a flat cutting surface, you're going to be able to get almost half that edge down onto the cutting surface without your knuckles hitting it. So very cool that he dropped that edge down. That is something I like to see, especially when you want to have a utility blade that's still going to be a versatile blade, because you still have a slight bit of belly anyway. So pretty much anything that you throw at this is going to be pretty darn good at it. And like I said, it should perform great. This thing has outstanding blade geometry. I was feeling it and I was like, man, that feels fairly thin. Look how thin. Nice and thin. Behind the edge on this knife is 13 thousandths. And the edge bevel on it, that's something I would talk to Conwu about. Not the biggest deal. I could straighten it out if I sharpened it myself, but one of the bevels is at 15 degrees and the other bevel's at 19 degrees. Whichever one, even if you split that difference, it's great. Even if you sharpen it at 19 degrees, this thing is going to be a slicing machine. 15 degrees would be outstanding, and it should be able to handle that low edge because this is in CPM 20CV steel. But one thing about Conwu is they put the correct HRC with the steel that they're using. So I would rest assured that they're probably going to have these where you should see 20CV at, hopefully. Maybe Steve can let us know that down below as well. That forward finger choil also doubles as a sharpening choil. That plunge grind is pushed all the way to right here where my fingernail is. So you're going to have the entire life of this knife before it'll widen up on you. That's the way it's done. Now, this forward finger choil, if you have fat sausage fingers, may be a little small for you. I think it would have been maybe even better if this came back into the scale a little bit and you didn't have this point as much. So it fit pretty much everybody's finger, unless you weren't going for a forward finger choil there and just a sharpening choil. Just depends. This blade, I like that top swedge. I think it looks attractive. I think the blade looks beautiful. It reminds me, a few of us said this down in the comments, it kind of reminds me of the GOM, is it? A bigger version of this with a wider blade. If the GOM and the CKF Evo had a baby, this is what it would look like. Because I think the ergos on the Evo are stellar, just like the IR. I think the blade shape on this one's cool, but it doesn't slice half as good, or it's not going to slice half as good as this one because of the taller grind and the thinner edge bevel there. The blade has a black DLC coating on it. And this is like a polished DLC or like a high satin underneath it. And as you can see, it is an absolute fingerprint magnet. It may look good when it's clean, and it's still very hard to get all the oils off of it. It's a pain. Like I said, it looks good, but me personally, I prefer the satin DLC like on this Kaiser Drop Bear. You see, this one's very reflective. And the Drop Bear, as you can see there, I can touch that one like that. Look, if I do that, you can see the smudge, and I just did the same thing to the Drop Bear. You don't have any fingerprinting there. But I don't know if that's an option or if that's something he wants to do. But for me personally, especially for someone who likes to use their knives, that would drive me nuts. And I think something else that would have looked great, but I get it, it would have made the price jump up even more, is if you'd have put the matching DLC here on the bolster and the pivot and anything black. I think if you would have put all DLC, I think it would have looked like a super high-end premium knife, because that's about all you usually see that finish whenever they put it on all of it. I know that finish is not cheap, so I'm still going to try to pick one of these up as soon as that pre-order goes live. No doubt about it. Let's get some specs out of the way, and we'll do size comparisons as I'm talking. First, you have the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, and the overall length on this is 8.42 inches long. Like I said, it's a bigger knife with a 3.64 inch blade. You have a 4.78 inch handle, and scale thickness comes in at 0.56. It's almost identical to the Hinder XM18 3.5 inch, and it's a hair shorter than the Chris Reeve knives Umnumzon Tanto. And it's almost identical in length to the Kongwu Teo, and it's a good bit larger than the Kongwu Chad. Quick weight first in grams at 135.6 grams, or 4.78 ounces. There's your balance point on the knife. Here's a shot of the knife in the pocket. You don't have a whole lot sticking out, and it does leave the lanyard hole right there. Your lanyard would be above the pocket, so if you want to use that to pull it out, or you could just pinch right there, no problem. It is reversible. As you can see, it is tapped on this side. The lockup on this knife, I'd say, is around 50%, and the access, it is flush with the show side scale. They did put this chamfer right here, and they put texture on the top of that because you're going to be grabbing it on the top. I have no problems disengaging it, but you know, if you want to make it even better, you could, where this chamfer is, bring this scale down that far so you could have even better access. But like I said, as long as you know you can get your thumb on top of that texture, it's no problem. It's not hard at all for me to disengage, and you get a nice positive lockup. This thing has rock solid action, no up and down, no left to right, very tight lockup. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints, and these are all nitpicks. I want to say before we even give these, I would pre-order the knife right now as is, no ifs, ands, or buts. I like it that much. So these are all just nitpicks that I think if I was designing it, this is things I would do differently or change on it. But that's me. But the way it's sitting, A-okay. And like I said, he did change some things for the final form. Hopefully he can let us know that down in the comments. So first things first, I think, like I said, the satin DLC would have been a better user finish. It doesn't fingerprint as much. It looks just as nice to me. But, you know, I do understand the luster of the higher polished DLC. And while we're speaking of the DLC, I think it would have been outstanding if all the black here would have been the same DLC. It would match better, and it would give it an even more premium look to it. Something you see on a lot of custom knives and stuff like that. But I do understand it would make that price go up even higher than it already is. So, you know, that's just something I'd like. I talked about it earlier. I think give a little bit better lock access, maybe come down a little bit further here just so you could actually get to the side of that lock bar. But as it sits, I can easily disengage that lock, no problem. Detent ball ramp wouldn't be a terrible thing. You know, it's always nice to have a detent ball ramp. A filler tab here, or not have a tab at all and just have a separate scale, make it tapped underneath for lefties no matter what. And if a lefty buys it, you can give them one of the scales with the tapped out spot. That's probably way too much commotion. So I think it would have looked much cleaner without the lanyard hole here. You could integrate it into this backspacer, put a post or something back there instead of having the actual hole, especially for a larger knife. I think even though this jimping works just fine, I think finer cut jimping, being that you have this crowned all the way here, would have been even better. And for the jimping people out there, I think if you had extended the jimping all the way before it gets to this ramp right here, would have been awesome. And lastly, even edge bevels. You know, that's just being, you know, like I said, very nitpicky, because I've sharpened a lot of knives since I've been into knives. And there's probably 1 out of every 20 that have an even bevel whenever I sharpen them. Usually they're both different on both sides, or at least the ones I get. So either way, even if it doesn't change, 15 and 19, both of those are, you know, that's a nice, decent thinness to that edge bevel, especially with this thin blade grind. It would be awesome, but it would be even better if they were close or matched. All that said, I would still pre-order this knife right now. If I can afford it, I will definitely be pre-ordering this knife. And if you happen to be selling the scales separately, I'll probably buy some of those as well, so I can get the carbon fiber and then throw the micarta whenever I want it to be a different knife. I think that would be another awesome thing that you could offer. Extra sets of scales for people who got, say, one scale, but they want a different. That would be outstanding. I cannot wait to hear y'all thoughts on the knife. Do you plan on getting on this pre-order? I sure hope I can afford it at the time these drop, because I will definitely be getting at least one, maybe two. So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. If you want to ask Steve a question, you can ask him down below as well. I'm sure he'll do his best to answer you. And I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Hey!